I almost moved out to Portland last summer, but rent prices were really high for just studio apartments.
With Vancouver, it's a little more affordable to live here.
Maybe fast-track permitting for turning office spaces into housing.
Affordable housing. They need jobs that pay enough to have people be able to, live with less than 6 roommates or not have to perpetually rent for the rest of their lives or feel like they have to make a decision whether they can go grocery shopping or put gas in their car.
As part of Fox12's Be Seen, Be Heard Portland initiative, we take your questions and concerns directly to those who can affect change in our community. One of the issues we keep hearing about is the rapid rise in the cost of living.
Investigative reporter Adrienne Thomas is joining us in studio this morning with a closer look at the issue. Adrienne, good morning.
Good morning. So according to the latest city data, Portland needs to have an additional 120,000 new units of housing by 2045 to keep up with demand. But key policymakers at the state and local levels say rising cost of living has been a direct result of the region not keeping up with population growth and wages not keeping up with rising costs. We recently sat down with these local elected officials to hear how they can make a difference on the issue. According to Rent.com, Portland's average rent for a one-bedroom apartment is $1,570 per month, compared to the national average of $1,495. And the median home sale price in Portland is $500,000, compared to the national average of $420,000. We took these concerns to the president of Portland's new city council, Ilana Pertolgini, and state senator Con Pham, who represents Northeast and Southeast Portland in the state legislature and chairs Oregon's Senate Committee on Housing and Development. Both discussed how cost of living can be addressed in policy at the state and local levels.
Portland is struggling with affordability, as many major cities across the country, but especially on the West Coast have been. We are still the most affordable big city on the West Coast, but for far too many people, it does not feel like that anymore.
As far as addressing cost of living in Portland, as council president, what do you hope to accomplish?
We are in the middle of a push for building more houses, which is one piece of housing affordability, certainly not the only piece. We need to be looking at housing construction. We need to be looking at what we can do to ensure the cost of housing is not increasing at the skyrocketing rates that we've seen over many recent years.
Council President Pertolgini says the other major factor is wages not keeping up with the rise in the cost of living, and that City Council can make a difference on this front by crafting policy that supports well-paying jobs in the city. She adds that local leaders also are trying to showcase Portland as an attractive market for developers to build more housing. State Senator Pham believes it's going to take bold policy to undo decades of slow housing development trends.
The last 20 to 30 years, Oregon has not built enough housing to keep up with the needs of a rising, growing population. We need to build 360,000 more homes in the next decade just to keep up with the population growth.
Pham is sponsoring multiple pieces of major housing legislation, including Senate Bill 974, which has strong bipartisan support. It requires local governments to approve construction plans for residential developments within 90 days. Senate Bill 684 would create a fund to provide below-market interest rate loans to developers for mixed-income housing. Both aim to speed up housing production in Oregon and reduce red tape.
These problems took years to create, and it's going to take some time to actually make up and build the housing that we need to make up for the decades of underbuilding.
Now, Senate Bill 974 passed the state Senate Monday with overwhelming bipartisan support, with nearly all state senators voting in favor. It now heads to the Oregon State House Chamber for a vote. Senate Bill 684, however, is still making its way through lawmaker committees.
So Adrienne, Pertolgini and Pham both said that more housing needs to be built, right? But what do the trends look like in the recent years here in Oregon?
Recent years, according to federal data, actually shows a downward trend of residential construction permits being issued across the state. That's, according to the Census Bureau. They track that data across the country. And in Oregon, just for example, in 2022, there were about 20,300 permits issued. Then in 2023, decreased to about 17,700, and only just over 14,000 in 2024.
Wow.
An expert analysis of this particular data set says that we're actually on track to have even less permits issued in 2025.
That's drastic,
yeah.
that drop.
Yeah. But
wow.
I think what's significant is in a state like Oregon, when we've seen a lot of political division in the state legislature, you have senators from both sides of the aisle really supporting legislation like that particular Senate bill aimed at speeding up the process of some of these projects that are ready to go. They just need the right bureaucratic channels to approve the construction plans.
Wow. All right, Adrian, thank you.
Thank you.